game, 3 minutes, with a 2-second increment between Vidit Gujarati and his opponent, German Grandmaster Matthias Bluebaum, who has just won on demand in the most improbable fashion from a dead lost position to force this blitz tiebreaker. They are playing sudden death. The winner of this game wins the match and advances to the 4th round. The loser goes home. If they draw, they continue playing blitz games until a winner is determined. Peter, we were watching Vidit before the game. He is nervous. He is terrified. And here we go.
Yes, here we go. It's unbelievable because I have never seen Vidit being so nervous. He was shaking with his leg. It just clear that he couldn't calm himself down after what happened in the previous game.
Now, Vidit does have the major advantage of the white pieces. He has put a lot of pressure on Matthias in these Queen's Gambit decline structures, and they've already had several IQP positions. Here's another one. And who benefits in this particular isolated queen pawn structure? Black seems to be fairly active, but I'd have to go with an edge for white.
Yeah, it's a very solid position for both sides, but here white has the grip on the isolated pawn, so it's clear that black needs to equalize. White has some chances.
It's much harder than it looks to carry out d4 and live to tell the tale. Instead, Bluebaum taking a more passive stance. And what about bishop takes d6 and knight e2, knight d4 with a very nice blockade on the pawn?
Yeah, you can blockade, but you can also say that you don't need to blockade immediately.
Great move, bishop b1.
Yeah, he wants also something like queen d2, rook fd1, targeting that pawn. Yeah, bishop e6 played. White goes for your plan knight e2, which is the standard one. White has secured an edge. The only question is how much it is, but it's always a very pleasant one when you already can ask such questions.
Queen a4 asking more questions and deploying the queen to an active square, kind of aiming at the knight and the pawn and encouraging Bluebaum to withdraw his bishop, which he does. And in turn, Vidit withdraws his queen to b3. More questions getting asked. But Bluebaum continues to chase the block as it moves and parks itself on c3 and attacks the knight. And there is the tactical bishop b5 counterattacking e2, or he could simply drop back to c6.
Yeah, he goes for queen b6. A bit strange. He didn't try to use the momentum in order to change the character of the position. I was expecting bishop b5.
Uh-huh. Okay. What now? Knight d4, knight f4, rook d1, lots of possible moves. He's playing with an abundance of caution.
Yes, it's also very much Vidit style. Just stabilize. This is an advantage. He will have g4, king g2. I mean, he can expand on the king side, so he can combine play against the isolated pawn, plus advancing his pawns on the king side.
And watch this game be a draw. They're going to extend the fun by one more game.
Yeah, but it's quite unpleasant because whenever white advances g4, king g2, king g3, h4, I mean, also we trade, even if we trade both rooks, then white still has this g4, g5, and they're kicking that knight from f6, and if you go g7, g5, then the f5 square will be weak. So there are a lot of long-term problems here.
And Vidit likes these positional squeezes in a 3-minute time control. It takes a lot of time for black just to make moves, to make sure that you don't blunder to d5 and that you don't give white undue activity. So from a blitz perspective, this is a dream scenario for Vidit. Essentially no risk. Although I hesitate to say that phrase now after what we've seen in both of our blitz matches.
Yes, that's true, but still it's so hard to imagine. Here white can eventually just take on c6 and put the other knight on d4, just making sure that you don't have to even think about any knight jumps to e5.
My inclination would be to trade one pair of rooks with white, but Vidit keeps both of them on the board as he withdraws from the c-file. He says, I don't care about the c-file because I have the c2 square firmly under my control. And Bluebaum potentially preparing to double on the c-file. Vidit can do the same on the e-file, on the d-file, but you do have to at least keep track of the potential knight jump to e4, as Vidit, I think, trying to get his bishop to a more combative square where it pressures the d5 pawn.
Yeah, the very famous Ivan Chukaronyan game comes to mind from Morelia 2007, I believe, where Chuki has used this rook c1 to d1. I think Vidit very much remembers that game, and he came up with this idea knowing that game.
Bluebaum trying to find the best defensive setup as he drops his bishop into b5. Of course, knight takes b5, very inadvisable because black will pick up the bishop, and the bishop will have to move. Rook takes c2 is now a threat. You can chase the rook with bishop f5. Instead, he takes the more modest approach and tucks the bishop away on b1.
Yeah, bishop a4, that's a good move because you want to provoke b3 in order to weaken the c3 square.
f3 stopping knight e4.
Yes, very important. Now white will play king f2, g4, h4. Those are the thematic moves.
Very unpleasant position for black. This long-term plan of kingside expansion is made all the more nasty by the fact that black has no prospects down the c-file, no real prospects on the queen side, but I would contemplate a move like a5 and a4 just to try to mix things up a little bit, cause tickle white on the queen side, but instead Bluebaum focused on building up his defenses on the other side of the board.
I think he's preparing knight g8, knight e7, regrouping his knight to e7, protecting his knight on, his pawn on d5. It's a clever idea, but it's a very passive position.
And he's burning a lot of time to figure that defensive setup out. He's reached a minute now, and Vidit's time advantage has grown to 25 seconds. That is big. And knight g8, good call.
Well, it was the logical call, but I'm not liking it. Yeah, if you already have to use such drastic measures, it means that the position is really, really critical.
I think a knight regrouping of white's own can be contemplated here. Knight e2 and knight f4, putting more direct pressure on the d5 pawn. And the bishop on b1, very important defensive piece. It is holding both of black's rooks at bay. And now it's Vidit's turn to drop under a minute.
Yeah, because he got the maximum and it's not so easy. If you play rook d2, then black plays instantly rook c1, tries to trade one. Yeah, rook h1, he's trying to create something on the king side.
Trying to induce light square weaknesses, in particular the f5 square. But this could backfire, Peter. If you play h5, g5 prematurely, black in some circumstances could potentially push f5 and park the king on f6 and recapture that pawn. So there is potential for tactics as Vidit refuses the knight trade and discovers an attack on the d5 pawn.
Yeah, so knight e7 will be played, yeah, on the board. We are expecting knight f4. Yeah, knight f4.
Indeed. And now the pawn hanging once again. 30 seconds for Matthias Bluebaum as he defends it from e6. But now the bishop is under pressure as well. Does white play h5 or does he keep the tension for the time being?
He keeps, yeah. He wants to stabilize that knight on f4. g5, a bit committal choice.
Black takes on g5. I thought he was going to go h5 and said he's trying to trade more pieces, but takes an e4. Very unpleasant position.
Wow, e4 is a great call, yeah, because e4 d takes, e4 knight takes e6, you destroy the pawn structure, and black is full of holes and weaknesses.
Vidit realizing that he's got a chance here, taking his time, 20 seconds on the clock, he's got to make a move. e4 transforms his advantage, and he's done it. And black is in trouble.
In a lot of trouble.
Take the bishop first, ruin black's structure. Bishop is stronger than the knight. Rook on d1 controls a lot of important squares, and black runs the risk of losing a pawn here.
Yes, okay, the knight will go to f5, but even somewhere bishop takes f5 could be very unpleasant rook endgame. But he's not in time to reach that even.
Rook b6. Rook b6
Yes.
ties black down completely. And some of these rook endgames are going to be lost because of the placement of black's king.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Bluebaum's in huge trouble.
Knight d5 runs into bishop takes d5, ed, and then the king comes. Also, rook f6 check is always there. It's hopeless.
This is winning. King e3, king d4. Black is cut off and tied down to the pawn on g6. 6 seconds for Vidit, but it should be enough to allow him to convert this winning endgame.
Yeah, black needs some active defense, but with this g6, g5 fix, you don't have activity.
You have to go rook d7. Okay, he tries. He's giving up a lot of his pawns, but Vidit doesn't have to take b7. There is no rush at all. He can make all the improvements first.
Yes, and he does.
Completely winning. Barely made that move. 2 seconds for Vidit. He barely made his move. Rook takes g6, and he's dropping all his pawns. Banking on the d-pawn. The last hope for Bluebaum.
Yes, but rook g8, and then, yeah, the rook is coming from behind.
Rook e8, no, rook d8. And, wait a second, still not totally over. Bluebaum activating his pawn. And Vidit might have to give up his rook at the right moment for that pawn.
Yeah, but he has
G6.
2 pawns, yeah.
Oh,
Even
G6
rook
was
d5.
totally winning.
Wow.
Oh, he's getting a little nervous, but G6 still winning.
Yes.
King G5, that's it. Oh, with 2 seconds.
King gets to h6.
Zigzagging around. Rook F5 draw! Rook F5 draws!
Wow. Unbelievable.
He squandered
Unbelievable.
it! Rook takes F3!
Oh my god.
And Black will win the newly promoted queen! And he...
Oh my
Bluebaum.
god.
Oh, but he lost it!
Rook
And he lost
c5.
it! He had to go King D4 to stop Rook C5, and Black-White will win. Oh.
Unbelievable.
No frickin' way. That's it.
Unbelievable. I cannot believe what we have just witnessed.
There was a draw. Black had to go anywhere but where he went. He allowed this bridge construction. And if he had gone up with his king, it was an instant draw. And now he will play until the bitter end. It is mate.
Unbelievable, because he find the defense, yeah? He find this rook f5, rook takes f3. Unbelievable, he cannot believe. And Vidit through to the next round. What a drama.
And Matthias Bluebaum, you feel for him. He fought like a lion. He found the only way to, not even to save that game, the only way to not lose. He came within a move of drawing that game as the players there cordially discussing this crazy sequence of moves that concluded the tiebreaker portion.
That was one thrilling game, wasn't it? Let me show you what happened in the last few moments of that crazy game. There was a really exciting draw for Bluebaum, but this was a position where Bluebaum went for counterplay by going rook c2. Vidit is totally winning. Vidit went a4, rook comes to g2. Vidit correctly plays king f4, not giving up that pawn, because he's anyway getting the b pawn or the g pawn, or both. Now takes, king moves, rook check, and the g pawn also falls. Completely winning, right? d4. So Bluebaum's only source of counterplay is the d pawn that is running down the board. So Vidit goes down with the rook. Bluebaum brings a king in. Rook comes behind the pawn, king c3, defending the pawn. And now Vidit takes the time to get one pass pawn on the queen side. Meanwhile, the d pawn runs forward, and now b5. Takes, and now rook comes to b2. Vidit defends the pawn. It was not needed, just directly g6 was winning. But there's no time to calculate. They're down to 6 seconds. So in frantic time pressure, he plays rook d5, which is still winning, king c4. Now rook goes back and the b pawn falls, but at least it forced the king away. So king will need 2 extra moves to help the pawn promote. So it was still winning for Vidit. Vidit plays g6. Now comes an important moment. Rook comes, stopping the pawn. So king has to come up, king f5. King comes down, king f6, and now the pawn is all ready to push. So Bluebaum gives a check. Here Vidit played king g5 and again a check, and king went to h6. And this is where it's actually a draw. So the correct move would have been, the correct plan would have been to go up, and when check, go to f8. That is winning. But Vidit came back, but it's of course the most natural thing to do. But the draw was he plays rook f5. Now the f pawn falls. And the point being, after f pawn falls, if white promotes the check and the check again and queen is gone, you'll be a rook up, but then black will do this. Black will promote and white will have to give up the rook and it'll be a draw. So this check and then this skewer is the problem. So rook takes pawn. Here, rook check happened. Vidit just throws in a check, because what else can he do? What can, it's a draw. So if you play rook to d5, then d2. Rook to d5 is a good try here, but then d2. Okay, let me show you what happened first. Rook check. And here Bluebaum had to play king d4. He went king d2. And this allows rook c5. So now you see the pawn is still not going to promote. And white is able to block by building the bridge. So here rook check, rook blocks. Rook attacks the pawn, rook blocks. And now rook takes rook, king takes, and it is just a winning endgame. So what was a draw there? Basically here, after rook here, if king comes to d4, then it's a draw, because now there's no rook check. I mean, there's no rook building the bridge. So there's no rook c5. So white will promote, which is the best option, and rook check. And when king moves, just check, and it's a draw. Wait, was there a? Yeah, it's a draw. Wait, did I blunder something? Whites. Wait, rook, king d4, and white still winning. Wow, king d4 is still winning for white because promotes rook check, king g5, and rook g3, king f4. Wow, the king gets in. That is still a win for white. Wow, that's just brilliant. King comes in and the white king is getting in. So what was a draw then? Then the draw was so difficult. The draw was king to b2. But what's the point? Still rook c5, right? Rook c5 comes in now. Now rook g3, rook g5. Wow. Okay, the king is at least not blocking the pawn. So here you can play takes takes. Wow, that's the difference. That's the difference. Takes takes and d2 promotes and promotes. And it's an equal endgame. So that was not to be. The endgame went like this. So what a crazy endgame, yeah? Endgame went like this, and after check, after all this, the rook was able to block. And now the big difference being the king is on d2 blocking the pawn. So it's one extra tempo for the pawn. King moves, but white promotes. So that one extra tempo, and it's winning for white. Queen check, and all you have to do is the technique here is you have to just force the king in front and then get your own king and repeat. Repeat the same process, and here Bluebaum resigned.